All right, we're live. We have Erin Clark here, and we are going to discuss basically, no excuses. We're just looking for results. How did she do it as a single mom and husband being deployed and all the things on her plate? So this is going to be a great one to listen to, especially if you're a single mom, single dad, or, you've got all these excuses. This should get rid of your excuses. So let's get started. All righty. Here we go. Oh, hello, Miss Erin.
Hey, how are ya?
Good. You just came from eating Mexican food, right?
Yeah. So in case anybody's wondering, we had lunch today.
Yeah. We every day we eat lunch.
Every day.
All right. So I am excited for this one because I think, obviously Erin has been partnered with me for a couple of years now, and we do a lot of interviewing and training agents together. And, typically we hear always the same excuses. And, and it's hard for me. I think Erin has made it even worse on people now from my perspective, because I always say, how did Erin do all of this stuff with all of what she had going on in her personal life and never skip the beat? So I think this is going to be great for a lot of agents out there. One, to kind of hit them kind of in the face with it. Like, come on, everybody's got something going on. You could still do it. And then plus, I think you're going to give a lot of great tips and guidance on how somebody could do it. Right.
Yeah. Sometimes it's going to be easier to hear it from somebody who's been through the hard times and didn't let it hold them back or anything. So that's me for sure. So a little bit about my background is, so I've been in real estate 3 years now, and so I got into real estate kind of right as COVID was hitting, if that helps anybody with the timeline. So the market just in my 3 years has been all over the place, from like up, down, just in 3 years. So everybody here knows that, but so that on its own could be a podcast. But as for some more of my own background, so I started working whenever I was 16 years old. I started working at Subway and worked there until I moved out here, and then got a job working Subway here for a couple of years as well. I ended up managing one of the local stores. So all that to say, I've never not worked. That's just pretty much, if I wasn't working, I felt like I was going crazy. I stayed home for 2 years whenever I had my first son, and was just itching to get started in a career. I tried a couple of things, like pursued some potential career paths. We were just joking about that earlier, and for sure wouldn't have worked out. But sometimes that's what you have to do, is try, and then you're like, no, that's not for me. But so yeah, as soon as I got into real estate, I was like, oh yeah, this is it. I know that this is going to be what I do forever. And then joined the Frost team. And it's just been, up from there. So my husband is in the military, and so it's really hard to just right off the jump. Whenever you go from staying home for 2 years with a child, and the spouse is used to just, appointments, childcare, everything is just, it's assumed that I'm going to do it because I'm staying home, of course. So there was a huge dynamic shift whenever I got into real estate, because after the first maybe 2 or 3 months of me being in real estate, I was like, I know that in order for me to be productive, I have to go all into this, because what I'm doing now is just kind of dabbling, and it's not going the way I thought it was going to do. And I'm pretty much still staying at home right now. This isn't my career. I'm still staying at home all the time. So there was a huge dynamic shift. And my first bit of advice for anybody doing that is going to be your spouse, your partner. whoever it is, if you've got one, needs to get on board, and you guys are going to have a very serious conversation about helping each other out. And that's what we did. My husband, Paul, and I, we went through some trial and errors with timing things. And sometimes it's going to feel like one is taking more of the load than the other, but then it always balances out as long as you guys are both under the understanding that both careers are just as important. So real estate, you do have flexibility. You're your own boss. Okay. I hear agents say that all the time, almost daily. It's like, oh, I'm not going to come in. I'm going to work from home today. And for me personally, working from home is too distracting. That's not going to happen. There's just no, like, whether or not the kids are there with me, but that's just 100%. I'm going to find things to do, or dogs barking outside. Just, it's too much. So, but yeah, so when it comes to being flexible, you need to use that in your favor, not against you. We tell our agents that are coming on the team all the time, anybody that's coming to us for advice. So real estate in general, you need to use your flexibility, because it means that you can work whenever you want, not I cannot work whenever I want, because that's not how it's going to work for you.
Yeah, good point. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, you had a lot of good things you said in there, but let's go back to like your background. So you and Paul married, you have two kids.
Two kids right? Now, yeah.
Lucas is 5. Or is he still 5? And then Casey's just not even, is he a year yet?
He's 11 months now. Yeah. And yeah, he'll be a year at the end of next month. Yeah, so that timeline wise clearly means I had a baby fairly recently, and there was a lot of excuses that ran through my head throughout that time. As soon as I found out that we were expecting, I was like, this is about to be a hard year. Yeah. This is about to be a hard year. Just everybody has something going on, and I'll get some more into that with some of my guidance. So I had some medical issues going on top of being pregnant, having those appointments. There was just appointments all the time, but that was not a reason for me to let it slack. I still showed up to the office more than some of the new agents that we had at the time. I showed up earlier than them and stayed later than them. Went to my appointments real quick and came back, because I know that in order for me to maintain or even get anywhere close to what my production had been the year before, I have to work harder. You have to have that mindset. Even if you're not in real estate, you need to make sure that you're putting in all the effort that you have, because being lazy is not going to get you anywhere. There's no excuses.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's so much to cover there with you and what you've been through in the last 3 years. Like you said, you came in at COVID, which was a very weird market, right? I've been in it 10 years, and I've never seen it that crazy, where houses would come on and then you'd have 10 offers, you'd get over asking, you get or appraisal addendums, you get all this. It was never that way. So you came in the high of that kind of dealing with that, and then a lower inventory. You were brand new. You started, right? And then Paul deployed. Not long after starting with our team, right? It was, so tell us about that a little bit. So, right, it was something like.
Yeah, he's deployed between deployments and training. So sometimes he'll be gone for a couple months at a time and then come back. And so anytime he's gone, all of the responsibilities would be on me. So if you're a single parent or solo parent, if you're married in my situation, but I was doing it on my own for the longest time. Anytime he was at a training or deployed, you take on everything. So like how you leave your house at the end of whenever you're headed into work is going to be exactly how it looks when you get there. And so a lot of that stress, even you guys on the team never saw, because I'm luckily able to have the mindset of when I'm at work, I'm at work. I'm not worrying about, how am I going to clean the house later? What am I going to do for dinner? I have to run to the grocery store. I have to go do this. The list could have been endless, but managing your time and making sure that in your own head, there are no excuses. I'm going to say it over and over again in this during this podcast.
Right.
Because if I'm not here and I'm not working, then there isn't going to be income. There's not going to be production. I'm not doing myself or my family any favors. So, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think. Go ahead.
So when he was gone, I have to worry about childcare, and if the baby is, Lucas at the time, it was, and when I first joined the team, it was just Lucas, my 5-year-old. If he was sick, I have to worry about that, so childcare, I have to drop him off at the babysitter's, and now I'm here and he's not feeling good. So there was a lot to juggle. And I think that a really good point is to make sure that if you're in real estate, you need to have a good, whether it's a team or a good company behind you that's going to help you with some of those hard things. Because sometimes it is unavoidable that you're going to have to, I have to stay home. My son has like 102 fever. He can't be at school or he can't be at the babysitter's. But that's pretty much the only thing that's going to keep me personally at home is if absolutely nobody else can take the kids. Besides that, I was at the office.
So I'm also trying to pinpoint. So when you first started, you started end of year 2020, was it?
2020.
And then 2021, 2022.
It was the beginning of 2020.
Yeah. And yep, that's right. Beginning of 2020. Yeah. So then, no, 2021.
It was 2021.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of 2021.
You were a real estate agent 2020 at the end. You got your license towards the end. And you had done 3 deals before coming to our team, right? And then you came to our team around February or so. And then so February, December, you had a huge year. It was like 20.
Awesome year.
Right? 25 closings, 18 or so listings just from February to December, which is huge. That's crazy. But in that year, didn't Paul deploy?
So I think that he went to a couple of trainings, but I don't think he actually deployed. I think he had. Yeah, I don't think that he deployed that year. He's only.
There was 2. He's went twice.
He has deployed twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that year. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking it was somewhere in that year where he left, or maybe it was the next year that he left for a good amount of time, wasn't it? It was a couple months. Yeah. And then because then he got back in like July or something, wasn't it? And then you got right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so he has deployed twice since I've been in this career.
Yeah. So then when so in that first year or so, he leaves for a few months, gets back, the next year. So you're going into your second year with us after a huge first year. And then he comes back, you guys, you get pregnant, not him, but you guys get pregnant. And then now you're going through that all of last year. I mean, not all of last year, but
right. Well, yeah.
Last year. Yeah.
All of last year. Yeah. So I was pregnant all of last year. So whenever that happened, of course, there's, how I'm feeling, how, I've got all these appointments today. There was a lot that I could have leaned on to just hang it up for the year. I'm not going to get too in depth with the personal stuff, but there was a lot of medical issues that I had going on that I could have just pitied myself. I could have just been a victim of my own situation. The baby was very healthy, in case anybody was wondering. He was perfect, but it was just, there was a lot that I could have really just, woe is me. I just want to stay home. My feet hurt. Everything hurts. But in my head and my mentality and in my life, doing that would have made me feel even worse because then I'm also mentally not being strong. You know what I mean? So I would have had to pick myself up mentally then as well. So there's just a lot that was just, I could have leaned on that, but coming in every day, because that is the promise that I had made myself. That is the commitment that I had made, was that I'm going to be in the office every day. And a lot of times, even before being pregnant or sick and all of the things that I was, I found myself in the beginning having to overcome this mentality where I was not being honest with myself. So this is probably a bit of advice that I could give new agents, experienced agents, or whatever. Am I being lazy? You have to be honest with yourself. Am I being lazy and creating these scenarios or situations in my head to make, like, fabricate a reason that I can't come in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, like, oh, my kid needs me for this and I can't come in today because of that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you just have to be realistic in your head. And I even caught myself doing it during COVID, you know, in that time frame. I was like, oh, well, Lucas has a cough today. I remember even texting in the group chat with everybody and be like, oh, Lucas has a cough today. I think I'm going to stay home just to be safe. And I got to thinking, I was like, is that really a reason? Like, was it really? He wasn't actually sick. He didn't have a fever. Kids get coughs all the time. And he was at a babysitter's house. You know, the school wasn't going to be like, shut down. Right. He's got a cough. And turned out I was. And I don't know if I even had discussed that with you. In the beginning, I was still trying to get into the groove of things. And I was feeling sorry for myself because I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm doing this all day, every day. And then I realized, like, there was like a click moment. As soon as I sent that message, I was like, he's not that sick. Come on. I was like, I'm coming in, you guys. He's all right.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stories of that, like that we've been, you know, you and I have seen, or, you know, with agents that, you know, we've trained or been on our team one time or another. And, but so Erin has a lot of great points, and we're gonna kind of go through a lot of these different points that she brings up. But I'm trying to get Erin to really get into, like, how much of her personal, not personal stuff, but like, so her husband has been gone like twice out of these 3 years. Okay. And in those 2, I mean, at least 6-7 months, I think, combined, maybe, or maybe even longer.
Yeah, longer.
Like, probably know. You're probably like, oh, it's, you know, right. And he just left, come back from another trip.
He just got back again. Yeah.
Yeah. He was gone another month or 40 days or something. And then you had, you know, Casey, the infant, and of course, Lucas, you know. So what I'm trying really to get at here is, in 3 years, in a crazy COVID market, and now in this market, Erin was brand new, started on a team. Her husband deployed and has been gone at least 8 to 9 months out of those 2 years. She had a baby within that time frame. Okay. She was maternity, and she was pregnant during that time frame, which, like you said, you had all the medical appointments, and you know, a lot of things were going on at the time. Like, so think about that in 3 years of starting a career. Your spouse is gone almost a year of that. You have pregnant, then you have the baby, right? Yeah. And then, oh, by the way, this first year she took about 3.5 months off after she had Casey. Okay. So this year she's already been out almost 3.5, 4 months. So she's really been pushing now from April to now. Right. So I just want everybody to understand that in 3 years. Okay. And the first year she was at 25 deals, 18 listings from February to December. Okay. February
as a new agent,
brand new agent. Okay. Husband was gone, you know, we're getting ready to go, like, on a deployment. Okay. And then the next year you did the same amount. I think it was real close. It was like 24 to something like that, right? With him being gone. Right.
Yeah,
and then you got pregnant during that time frame as well. And then that carried over into this year, which is now a crazy year. Like, I just want everybody to understand that, okay? Because I want you to put that in perspective of, like, how would you handle that? Because I know that I've dealt with agents who had a fight with their spouse and they'd be out 3 days. Like, seriously. Like, I mean, this sounds rough, but the point I'm trying to drive home to everybody out there who's going to watch this, who are watching this, listen, everybody's got things going on. And even now we're coaching a group of rainmakers who is a great group. And I think some of them hopefully will watch this, and I'm so proud of them. But, like, that's what I'm trying to drive home to them is, if they really want this to be their career, they've got to overcome these small little things that are used as excuses. right?
Mm-hmm.
And we hear it all the time, and I've heard it for years. My background, military and law enforcement, same thing. I didn't get excuses. The military doesn't allow you to have days off for being sick.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give you quarters, and you got to be almost dying. I got quarters at 103 temperature, almost 104. I got quarters for 2 days, and then I had to go back into the field. I had to go to the
Mm-hmm.
field, living on a tank at that point. So I got 2 days, and I felt like I was going to die. I really did. So, or you get medication and you go back to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't get that either. So mentally, I'm already that way because the
Right.
military structured me to overcome not feeling great all the time. And so it's easier for me than it is for others who never had that.
Mm-hmm.
But like with Erin, with 3 years in so far, the numbers that she's put up, plus everything that's gone on.
Yeah, there's been something every year. Like you said, there's something has happened. I'm just so used to not, that's why I keep like going off on my tangents, is because I'm so used to not having that like victim mindset to where sometimes I forget that I've done all this through those things. Like I've started my career 3 years ago and gone through all of these things. So it is, I don't think about it because it's had to get done. It's just
well, and you're doing it like it's your life and you're doing it, right? I think, I think we see a lot of, like I've always said, even when I was law enforcement, I used to watch, the agents that were underneath me, if things were going on personally, then they could never shake that professionally either. Like it always would bleed into each other, and it would make their entire life would be a disaster versus listen, I'm not feeling that great and blah, blah, but I'm not going to let it affect my professional life because I have clients or I have dedicated to this in my business or whatever. Like it's very hard for a lot of people to balance that. So let me ask you, how do you balance it? Like what is there? Is there something like, I don't know, like how do you do that so we can help somebody?
So I don't know, maybe it can be a blessing and a curse to me. I think that a lot of it's personality, but a lot of it is an active decision that I make daily to do those things. I guess in the blessing aspect of it, it makes me really efficient with my time because I have all these things going on that could bother me, that could take me down, but I don't let it. Helps me balance my time. But on the curse side of things, sometimes I'm like a little bit too nonchalant about the things that are happening. Like if it's something crazy, like I have some, like I just know several people being in Jacksonville whose spouses are deployed and they just let it destroy them. Like they're broken. And I absolutely love my husband to death, but doing that's not going to do me any favors. There's no point in doing that. So I think a lot of it has to do with personality, but for somebody that doesn't have a personality that's like that, it has to be an active decision that you make every day. You wake up in the morning and you know what your commitments are. You have to look within yourself and know what those are. So I think that maybe that would be how I did it, was because I'm not somebody that's going to halfway do anything. I always go all the way in. And I think that's how everybody should be. Just don't dabble in anything that you're doing. Then you're not going to do any of it 100%.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think that is true. Like, as I, obviously been around you the last couple of years, I think you're right. Like you're all in. And then, and again, I think you look at things from a perspective of how do I make it work? How can I do everything that I need to do and get it all done? Right. And you're smart with that. So we're not even mentioning like here's the funny part is in the past with people that maybe she's hired, they haven't been as dedicated on their spot to help. Erin has taken everything into control of, hey, look, if I do this, hire these people, then this helps me give back my time to do what I need to do. Then I still can come back. Right. Like, I just read something on Facebook that somebody posted on our podcast, and it said that Erin is basically the most kind of like busiest professional, and able to do all of that, but being the most present mother. Like it wasn't worded, I didn't word it correct, but
Yeah,
that
I know what you
what
mean.
it was, right? Like,
Mhm.
and that really is, it sums up what I think that, from the perspective of both of us, like I laugh at everybody who says they got so much going on when they're dealing with one deal or two listings or something, right? And you and I know, selling at a certain amount, how much that is, how many clients, how much negotiating, how much things you're doing, how much we show up to the office, our personal lives, our kids are involved in things, right? Like me last year, this past year and a half is book and the training platform and all the videos and the travel I did, and then sold 50, 60 houses too, and been but people will get really, really busy is what we say, right? Like they're always busy. But what is really true is we are very involved in being parents. And I know you and we've sat with agents, and for some reason, I think agents believe that the more you sell, the less likely you are a father or mother. Because I always hear, well, I just want you to know, if I'm going to join your team, Dave, my kids are a priority. Like, as mine isn't.
Right. I know.
Like, well,
Anytime we hear it, we look at each other and we laugh, and it's like, well, what?
Right. And right away, I know what the agent's doing is it's going to be their excuse for them not producing or doing something at a certain level, because it's hard to be a leader and push somebody to hold them more accountable against kids, because I'm not going to ever do that. But as you and I both know, we know how to still be very productive and successful while still being part of all of what our kids do, right? We're both part of that. So, I just find that very funny of that. So, and you brought that up, and I remember that coming off Facebook today. Like, that is really true. You are very much a very present mother and engage with your kids and your family all the time. So let's talk about that. What do you do? So you got real estate agents out there right now they're coming and going, watching this and stuff. What do you do in real estate that gives you more time, that you can be more present?
So I do have notes on this that I wanted to talk about. So you have to, I guess, analyze your situation, your life. Okay. What are, and it's going to sound rough, and maybe it isn't as rough as it's going to come across. You have to find the weaknesses in your timetable, I guess you could say. So if you've got, even if it's not kids, you got dogs, you got things that are going to interfere in your life or in your business too. So you're going to have other agents that are over here telling you to do this, and just, you have to analyze that. And as soon as you start seeing something going wrong, don't accept it. So for my personal example, without getting too in depth, is, and I've said it a few times, is childcare. So that could have been something that just made me, I'm going to work from home. I can't handle it today, guys. I just can't, because they keep calling out. They're doing this, they're doing that. So don't tolerate it. Get ahead of the problem. So say because people are going to abuse your time in real estate, in your life. And if you allow that to happen, you have to be strong enough to don't see it as it's happening, and don't let them do that. So with childcare, oh, I have a doctor's appointment today, so you have to come pick up your kid early. You're in real estate, you can do that. They're going to assume that you can because you're in real estate, and just don't tolerate that. So for the specific situation that I'm talking about, it doesn't have to be a confrontation or anything like that. I was like, hey, I have appointments. I have a lot of really important things that I do day to day. So you can't let me know same day that something is going on. I have to be able to plan accordingly. So if possible, reschedule that. So you just have to be brave enough to stand up for your schedule, stand up for your family, because doing that is going to leverage your time back. Because I could have easily been like, oh, okay, and then gone and got my kid at 11 a.m. Now that whole day is gone. I haven't gotten anything done in my business, no new clients. And then now they've seen that you're going to allow that, you're willing to allow that, and then it continues to happen. So it's just a conversation that you may have to have with somebody and be very stern even, but you can still be friendly about it. Like, don't be a jerk to these people, but it's your, if that's somebody that you're employing, if it's a house cleaner or somebody that's providing a service for you, you need to be able to wind them in, be the professional, and get them on the type of schedule that you expect. And then don't allow anything else. They'll eventually figure it out too.
Yeah. So, you brought up a good point. So, how in real estate you can, the things that you chose to do, that can give you more time, right? So I think that what you brought up was a supportive cast, right? Meaning like you took it upon yourself to say, okay, look, the number one thing I need is childcare. So I've got to find that. And then you went out and did that. And you've had a few, right, in the last couple of years, right? So you've done that because it takes out the excuse of kids. Well, my kids, I don't have anybody to watch them, blah, blah, right? So let me ask you this then. How do you take out the excuse that, well, yeah, but I got to pay for it. I got to pay for childcare. But now what? How do you, what would be your response to that?
So yeah, that's a very real situation. So what I did was, luckily, whenever my husband and I decided we were about to get, I was about to start this career. We had a little bit of a savings, not a lot, you guys, not a lot. It was enough to pay for like maybe 1 or 2 months of childcare. And that was what I had to work with. So that was our bill. A lot of people even have more at stake. Like, they have to pay all of their bills with this money. So that is what drove me to, I need to go all in. I don't have time to mess around with this, because if I don't, then I'm not going to have anybody to watch him. This person has to get paid, So just getting ahead of that. And also maybe even having somebody to work with you on payment plans. Because like you said, I've had a few different people watching my kids because for one reason or another. And I've done everything from being paid or paying them one time for the month. I've done week by week payments because that person was unpredictable in their scheduling. So that was what I insisted on doing, because I was like, I'm not going to pay you for a month. And then you end up just not watching them for only half of it. So find somebody that's willing to work with you and just get into it. Like, you have to, once you start producing, prioritize that. You have to be mature with the money whenever you do start making it. So not to get too deep into my finances, we have a savings account specifically for childcare. And so each time a paycheck comes through, some goes to this account, some goes to this account. Not to get too, detailed with you guys, but it has to be made a priority, because you don't want to turn around and then a few months have gone by and you haven't had a closing. Like, oh, babysitter's not getting paid.
Right.
That can't happen.
Yeah, no, good point. So I'm going to show you, Veronica has commented, and this is true, right? It's, you can bring them along, to a certain extent, right, of some things, but bring them along. And she has a great point. Of being an agent doesn't mean you can't be a good parent. Absolutely. Right.
I love that, Veronica.
Yeah. And for some reason, right, I know you and I have had conversations with agents, and that's one of the first things they say is, well, I'm a very dedicated parent. Okay. Well, if you know me and us, we're very dedicated too. I coach my daughters. I'm at every practice. We live in Hampstead, so I do most of my business in Jacksonville. I drive to Hampstead like last night just to make my daughter's jujitsu. I drove a little crazy, but I made the last 10 minutes because it's important for me to let her know and to let her see that I'm there, and I'm supportive, because nothing against my family, my parents. I love my parents. They raised me really well. But they just weren't at a lot of my games. My summer games my mom was at, but like in high school, nope. And it would have been nice to have them there sometimes. That's all.
Absolutely.
But so I want to be there for my kids. So I find that odd that agents, that's one of the first things they always say to us. And I think because I've been known to be more strict on accountability and harder, I think, on agents in the sense of our industry. But ultimately, look, if you're an agent and you want to join my team, look, I want you to be with your kids. Trust me, I'm going to teach you everything I can, teach you with your kids more than not. But you got to do the activities. So let's talk about the activities. So would you say that being like on your own more, or having to deal with that while Paul's deployed, listings probably the way to go, right?
100%. I think that while he was deployed, I closed 3 buyers. I mean, I was productive and I had a lot of closings, but maybe 3 or 4 buyers. And whenever I did have those buyers, if I had 2 of them at the same time wanting to see houses, I was like, I'm losing my mind. I need assistance. But what I did, just like Veronica said, was I brought Lucas along with me. And I think that there is a line. There's a time and a place where your kids can go with you, and sometimes that's not
right.
It's not going to be appropriate to bring your kids. But if it's somebody you've established a relationship with them, you are the professional in their eyes. You've taken them on showings before, maybe even. Then I think that at that point it's okay to have your kid with you. That's my opinion.
Right.
I didn't take him everywhere with me. It was kind of a last resort, but he absolutely loves looking at houses. So I agree with you, Veronica. It can be really great to have your kids with you. I tried to do it once we had Casey. He came with me. I had both the kids at a showing, and it was pouring down rain. Casey was like 3, maybe 4 months old. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. So I had baby here holding Lucas's hand, trying to get them to the car. Yeah. Anyways, that was not fun, but absolutely having listings gave me all of my time back. And then whenever I did have a buyer, I could feel the pressure of timelines and scheduling. You're going to be a scheduling pro if as soon as you start getting into juggling multiple things like that. So that's going to be a bit of a little tidbit I want to tell people. If anybody's having trouble with that, call me and I will help you analyze your situation or whatever and give you some tips on where to move things around. But when it comes to scheduling, Dave's taught me well.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Look, I mean, I taught a lot of people, but sometimes they just don't get it. But ultimately, that's what we want to do is now you're involved in training the agents that come through the team, and we want them to have as much time back as possible. And listings are hard to come by. And you really got to have a higher skill set than a buyer's agent. You just do. So listings are harder, but they will ultimately be, your lifeline if you want your time and to be more scheduled, to be home or be where you want to be. So listings should be your primary focus. So no, that's great. I think that's part of how you do it. So you have a supportive cast. That's one of, you're willing to pay the money to give your time back so you can make more money, which is smart.
That was what I did too. So I had people in my life that were starting to call me bougie, but for me, I wasn't going to spend my little bit of free time that I had cleaning. I was not going to do it. I'm not against cleaning my own house. I do it now. Like my husband's back now. So we clean the house together. But while he was gone, I had somebody come every 3-ish weeks to give me my time back because I want to spend time with my kids. I don't think that's bougie at all. But so it's important. You have to do things. Don't waste your own time. So if there was anything that I could have somebody else do, like clean the house, or I don't know. There's several situations. I was paying somebody to come detail my car. What'd you say?
Cut the grass.
Cut the grass. Yes, I'm not cutting my grass. So I have somebody do that. Pressure wash my house. Like I'm not. It gives you your time back.
Yeah, and you get to focus on what you're better at, and or what you just don't want to do. And gives you your time to do what you want to do, even if that's sleep. It doesn't matter. That's the way to go. But you've got to work and get disciplined and stay disciplined in order to be able to do that. That's the flexibility that I talk about. Like you were talking about flexibility described, I put on here is, You know, a lot of people join real estate for flexibility. Okay, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. And when you come in there thinking of that, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. If you come in thinking that, listen, this is just going to be like my full-time job. This is my business now. If I only work like 3 hours a week on this, it's never going to be successful. But if you come in thinking full-time job, just like I'm leaving, maybe you had a full-time job, you're working 40 hours a week, then keep with that mindset and work ethic and discipline for a while, because ultimately that's where the flexibility gets created. Is now you don't have to cut your grass. You're hiring maybe a kid down the street or a company. You got childcare. You have somebody cleaning your car. Like, you're now getting into a business mindset of, listen, I'm not really great at that stuff, or you just don't like to do it, right? And now I'm able to be flexible with, I don't have to do that anymore. I'm better selling houses. I'm awesome. I'm kicking ass. And that's what I need to focus on. And, or it gives me time back with my family. So, but the flexibility only comes from being disciplined. And again, you did that right off the bat, where you were really disciplined, and that I think just puts you in that direction, and you haven't stopped. So I think that's a huge piece. Another thing I jotted down as you were talking is, and I've had this conversation with, I know for sure, a good friend of mine, and I told him, look, you've got to be a role model to your kids too, right? Do you want them to see you doing nothing every day, but being able to pick them up every day from school, but not do much? Number one is role model. Number two is, everything we're doing as a parent, we want to instill in our kids work ethic, manners, integrity, right? If they see nobody doing any work, they're going to probably grow up to be that way. They're not going to work either, right? So obviously I think about that as a role model for my kids. I want them to know I work hard. And then in doing so, it provides us a life that they enjoy, and they'll remember, hey, because as kids, you remember your childhood as I do, and certain struggles or great things, or right. I want them to just have a great childhood and not hear about struggles or any of that. So in my mind, that pushes me to understand that when I want to be with my kids, but I understand that the more I'm away from what I do for income and for their future, the less likely their future is as bright, right? And or it's going to hurt our family as well, right? So people have got to stop putting their kids as the excuse of why they're not doing something, instead of saying, if I don't do something, am I a good role model there? And am I providing what I could provide for them? So just try to push harder for that, but be smart, right? Go after listings and do certain things, supportive casts, like you're saying. So
it is possible to have both, both the family life and the career.
Right. Absolutely. It is. And I always tell that story. Listen, I had an agent that joined our team. Alicia would know who this is if she's watching. And she sold one house in 1 year. One house in 1 year. She came to our team, and within 7 months, she had, I think, 13 closings, and she quit. And during that time, she quit real estate altogether. Great person. I still am friends with her. But during that time, she was always complaining about, I can't even cut my own grass. And I kept saying to her, well, why would you? Why are you worried about cutting your own? Pay the kid $40, $50, $60. You're making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on closings. Who gives a crap about the grass? Get somebody and then she was going to Lowe's or Home Depot for clients that weren't even under an agreement with her to help try to pick paint colors that if he decided to paint that he would go with, or carpet samples. And she was doing all this stuff that and I kept trying to get her on, not micromanager, but try to get her to understand, you're making things tough on you. Stop doing that stuff. But I mean, I don't know how many times I heard about the lawn, and I was just like, look, I'm tired of lawn. Hire the kid. Why are you worried about doing your lawn? Don't worry. But she ended up leaving. It was a lot of stress. Being successful brings a lot to it. Like you and I know there was an agent that we know came in my office, and she was so successful in her first year and a half that she broke down and didn't know how to handle it and, this or that. And look, it can be stressful. So you've got to be mentally strong in what you do. And like, I'll show it right now. It's like Brittany Frost says, mindset. Your mindset's got to be right. And it is so underrated in our industry, but this industry of, you got to have thick skin. You're going to get turned down. People, your own family's going to list with somebody else or sell somebody else. You're going to lose a listing or you got to get fired. Like, there's a lot of down to it. And, you can go from hero to zero in one deal or in one day. They loved you and all of a sudden, boom, something happened and they can't stand you now. Now you're the worst agent.
And then you're the one that they point the finger at.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so internally, it's hard for people to deal with that. Just as we had one man age, I say man because the women have been a little tougher, but the one man age, he just could not accept, being turned down, that people did not choose him. And it was hard for him to call people he didn't know because of that. He just did not like to be, I can't think of the word, but they didn't choose him, whatever. The decision, the decision to use him, right? Or reject it. Yeah. So, all right. So a few other things. Let's talk about excuses we hear. Let's get through them and that's be it. So common excuses we hear are kids. We've kind of went through that. We've kind of put that one down. Kids, they always use their kids for why they can't do certain things or why certain things are going. And again, we all know kids are going to get sick, got a medical, but we got it. We're part of that as well. And again, my situation is Brittany is great. And I could not have been as successful without her. There's no way, because she took on the role of, listen, if the kids get sick, if this happens, she would take charge and do it. Let me focus on the real estate side. Right. So that's still that way. Right. So, so you got to have that spouse helping you with that stuff. What about feelings? We hear a lot about, right? Like, that's a big excuse. I don't like to do that. I feel like they're going to be bothered. I feel like this. I feel. So we always like to say that's an amateur mindset. It's always feelings come before commitment.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, we heard that. We heard that a lot. So especially when it comes to calling specifically, you just. But I think they would say like, oh, I don't want to bother them. But in reality, inside, they're nervous or they are, I don't know. It's like the people nowadays, I guess you could say, don't like to get on the phone at all. They don't like to make calls. They'd rather shoot an email or a text over and call that a day. But when it comes to real estate, you have to call people. So we do. Right. We hear that all the time. Is they blame it on about over research something. They just talk themselves right out of it. Like, oh, I feel like I'm just going to start tomorrow. Or, it's, again, that's more of the amateur mindset and they're talking themselves right out of doing what they were going to do. So, yeah. Look, and a good point too. And some of the rainmakers, if they're watching, you guys are going to get this tomorrow. I'm going to get this tomorrow is a lot of these people are saying, that the for sale by owner tasks that we're given, there's not enough for sale by owners. So what I'm going to tell them tomorrow is, well, then one of you should have listed at least one, because if there's not that many, you guys all should have went to the same one. Like, but if all of you didn't get appointments, that meant that all of you, neglected that one or two FSBO, I guess, and said, well, there's not enough. So there's only 3. So I'm just going to, right. Like I would, for me, I'd say there's 3. I'm going to get those 3. Yeah. I'm going to do. Right. So I'm going at it that way. So, I don't know, Yeah. Our rainmakers are going to hear a lot of this, tomorrow about the excuses.
Yeah.
We're not going to tolerate any of it, or, they don't need to tolerate any of it either. I think that hopefully by doing this podcast as well, we'll be able to have them see that that's what they're doing. Because a lot of them, just in general, not just our rainmakers, a lot of agents just don't realize that what they're doing is making excuses. And hopefully that this podcast or any training that we do, they're going to be able to identify that.
Yeah.
And not do it.
get through the obstacle, there's always going to be an obstacle or objection or something. And that's what we've talked about before, instead of focusing on that problem, focus on how to get around it, get through it. Like, we don't have enough for sale by owners. Oh, well, how do you combat that then? You go to a different county, right? Or you go, the city, instead of Jackson, you go to Richlands. You go to there's ways to do that, right? And ultimately, even if there isn't enough, let's just say that's the case, right? Then you should be in the door of the ones that are there. You should be focused on that, right? So, but I think that a lot of agents, like you said, they talk themselves out of things and they overthink it.
Yeah. Another excuse that we hear is, I don't have the time. They think they're so busy. I'm like, well, let Dave and I tell you a little bit about not having time, but yet we show up every day. We are always on the calls. We're always doing everything. A lot of people say they just don't have time.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Big one.
And I think what you and I have realized is people will make time for a priority to them. So what they're really saying is something isn't a priority at this point. So I don't have time. But you see them, eating lunch, which everybody needs to eat. But I mean, they're out eating lunch, they're out socializing, they're off early, they're not in the office, they're not making calls. They're you see all of what they're not doing, and you do see what they do. Right. And so it really comes down to the priorities to them, and they've got to, that's going to be on each person. So,
yeah. And I think that some of that comes with not being able to identify how do you put it? It's like using what you're doing for what's time. Your time is valuable, and only spending your time doing the things that are, going to bring you the right direction. So people will say that they're working, especially in real estate, and people will say that they're working, but really they're, I don't want to say anything and get anybody in trouble, but just doing things that are not effective with their time.
Right.
Instead of,
because real estate's one of those careers that have a lot that surrounds the industry. And a lot of agents start doing those type things, especially new agents. New agents, listen, all you should focus on is honing in on being a real estate agent. That's it. How to do your job. And guess what? Lead producing. Tomorrow we're going to go over that. They should do shit else besides focus on lead producing. All this other stuff it's not what's going to bring them the income and the success. It's not, it feels good, but it only feels good because they like to do that. And it's not something that's uncomfortable or, we can go on and on and on about that. But I think from your perspective, that's, I think what's made you very productive and very successful in a short amount of time. Selling as many houses you have, and most of them are listings, and I think your mindset, from everybody that, has joined my team in the past, you've had the best mindset that I've ever seen. You're able to really take it all in and really funnel, how I'd call the bullshit and weed it out. Yeah. Weed it out and able to get back focused. And with all of what you in the last 3 years in your short career, the markets and had to go through with the pregnancies and the deployments. And, it's hard for me to be, sympathetic or empathetic for other agents who don't have any of that. And that's really what you see 2 spouses making good money or whatever, one's making, and then one spouse is their realtor, and then everything becomes an excuse. My car or whatever, I don't know.
Regular life things happen to everyone, but some people that are looking for a reason not to come in will let that dictate their day or really get them down in the dumps. Like, oh, I've got to get an oil change, or my car is having issues. Yay, Tiffany. Yeah, my car is having issues. And now that's mentally, they're destroyed about that. And, oh, I can't believe this is happening to me. And now that's dictated their day. They'll spend hours upon hours either talking about it or dealing with it. And it's like sometimes like regular life things are going to happen and you're not, this is about to sound so mean, but you're not special for that happening to you. Like it's, we all go through all kinds of things, but you have to, don't be a victim about it. Keep moving. So I don't know, maybe it just takes some thicker skin or a tougher mindset.
Yeah, I think for me, and there's always, you know, Coach Michael Bird always says, right, you got the prey drive and there's activators for your prey drive. And one, you know, a couple of my activators are losing what I've already worked hard for. I don't want to lose what I have now. So that keeps me moving. And in the reverse, when I first started, it's I wanted it. So I worked towards getting it. So that was I every day activated my prey drive to go get it. Right now, it's not to lose it. The second piece is to show my kids and be a role model and to provide for them. You know, so that keeps me going every day because I feel like if they see their father getting up every day, being committed, dedicated, working hard, and providing, I think that's what should be. And I think every parent works to do that, honestly, in their own way. But I think some use the excuse of not doing or not being more committed to their success over excuses. So anything else you want to leave everybody with, you know, from your perspective? We've been on almost an hour, so it's good though.
Yeah, I could keep going about it. I think the most important thing is to remember that as a person, as a real estate agent, as a parent, as a spouse, you have to control what you can control, and you can control more than you think in your life. So just don't tolerate anything less than what your goal is. Okay. So if my goal is to kick ass at real estate and to be a really good mom, then that's what I'm going to do. And anything else that's hindering that, don't let it. Cut it off. Figure out a way to stop letting it impact your life. That's what you have to do it. And if it's something that's recurring, it's a recurring problem, then that's telling you that that's something that needs to you got to fix it. And you can't wait for somebody else to fix it for you. It's got to be you. That's my advice that I want to leave everybody with.
No, great point. So two things we're going to do is, first one I want to ask you is, what do you say to people who say you work too much?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Hear that a lot. Yeah, but
I didn't really know that. I didn't know that. This is not planned.
Yeah, I've heard that a few times from people. It's just I'm not maybe they just think that I work so much because we are in a field that a lot of people don't put in work every day for. So it's like astonishing to see that we do put in work every single day. But I tell people that I love what I'm doing. So why would I do it any less? You know, and I'm, like you said, present for everything in my kids' lives. And it's all a priority to me. But I know that time-wise, this is where I need to be Monday through Friday, and even on the weekends too. Like we are able to, I don't think that I work too much at all, but maybe to people who
I don't either. I don't, even when I was law enforcement, people would laugh at me when I was in the military. They'd have to make me take leave. And then when I took leave, I would actually show up to work. And my team hated me for that. They're like, oh my God, can we ever get rid of you for a while? Like, we need a break from you. But I mean, I never felt like I was working. And I don't feel like I'm working a lot as a real estate agent. You know, there's things that we do in real estate that I don't care for, as I did in law enforcement too. But ultimately, I love it. Like, I don't ever feel like I'm working. Like it doesn't, you know, I think transactions sometimes are tough. Other agents can be tough to work with. I can, you know, vice versa, everything, right? And it can make it drag a little bit, but ultimately I love what I do. I love being around all you guys and the team and my clients. And it doesn't feel like work. So I don't feel like I work much at all.
Yeah. When I was working at Subway, there would be mornings where I was like, I don't want to go to work today, but I have to clock in at 6 in the morning. So I got to get up and roll out of bed and I'm just dragging myself. never once have I done that in real estate. So that's part of it. You have to really want to be where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to be passionate about what you do because it helps. Doesn't feel like work. All right. Last thing is, if anybody's out there watching, we have a few people out there watching. Anybody got any questions for Erin or me, kind of about mindset or scheduling or anything like that? You just write it in the chat box and we can get to it. We have a few people that's there, but maybe they don't have any questions. Tiffany had, I'm ready for it. Veronica put that in there. Brittany put that in there. But all right, well, if there's no questions, we are going to leave it at that. I think it was a good hour podcast. I think there was a lot of good information in there, and hopefully somebody got some good tidbits out there of how to overcome some obstacles, especially if you're a single mom, single dad, or your spouse is military coming and going, or even if they just travel a lot, you could still do real estate and do it very successful. It just starts with you getting very disciplined and not being so flexible with your time initially.
Be disciplined, be tough, don't be a victim. And whenever you hear yourself starting to make excuses, identify that and stop it. That's the only thing I could say. Like, stop making those excuses. Don't do it. And,
absolutely.
Control the aspects of your life that could be hindering your success.
Yes. Well, that's good. All is good. Thank you, Erin, and I'll be back at the other office in a minute.
All right. Yeah, I'll see you in a few.
Yes, a few. Thanks for taking the time out to do this. And yeah, hopefully everybody enjoyed kind of what we talked about, learned something, and we'll see you next week. We're going to be doing these every week now. All right.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody. Yay.
All right. Bye, y'all.
All right. Bye.